Well, it's clear that this is a time of crisis, and the old saying is that crisis is both danger and opportunity. So, in some senses, the Iranian attack on Israel was remarkably ill-timed for Prime Minister Soudani. But there is a chance that he might be able to utilize this to reiterate, to repeat the fact that Iraq is a very useful interlocutor between the West and Iran, that is one of the few states that is trusted by both sides, that can carry messages and perhaps dilute tensions. So we will see which of those two aspects most dominates the conversation, whether the Iranian attack kind of soils the water and makes it a difficult time for Prime Minister Soudani, or whether he's able to use this opportunity to remind the West and the United States in particular about Iraq's central role. Well, that is certainly Prime Minister Soudani's agenda, is to try to normalize the relationship between the United States and Iraq in a number of ways. To normalize any troop presence that is in country, to normalize the financial relations, to normalize the investment relations, to normalize educational and cultural exchanges. I think if there was one word that characterizes Prime Minister Soudani's agenda on this trip, it is normalization, trying to make the relationship between the United States and Iraq less tainted and influenced by the history of 2003. Well, if the agreement were implemented by both sides, and I think there is plenty of blame to go around as to why the Strategic Framework Agreement, which is now 15 years old almost, has not been fully implemented in all its aspects. That the relationship between the United States and Iraq has remained primarily military, with a little bit of oil thrown in. Iraq needs to do some things. It is an open secret that Iraq's investment climate and business climate is very, very difficult for Western countries, and there's more that could be done on the Iraqi side. But on the other hand, the United States needs to look at Iraq with fresh eyes, and realize that it's not the country that was overthrown in 2003, or had the civil war in 2006, or had the ISIS invasion in 2014. That none of those moments explain what Iraq is today. I think Soudani could be a very important transitional figure for Iraq. As you know, his reputation is pretty good throughout Iraq, with not only his Shia base, but with also the Sunni Arabs, and even up in Kurdistan, for all the issues between Baghdad and Erbil. Prime Minister Soudani is usually not seen as the problem. He's usually seen as an honest broker that's always trying to repair relationships inside Iraq. And he has been quite successful in also reestablishing relationships first in the region. I think Iraq enjoys the height of its relationship with its neighbors, with the Gulf states, with the Turks, with the Jordanians. Those relationships are as good as they have ever been. And he's now trying to reach out to the West. Now, of course, the Gaza conflict and the behavior of the resistant groups in the past years makes that difficult for him. There's no question about that. But he seems to be a uniquely trusted figure by all sides, that if anyone can repair this relationship, he seems to be the man. Like, I think everyone who comes on this delegation will be following in Prime Minister Soudani's wake. This is not the KRI's visit. This is Iraq's visit. And so there will be many officials involved. The electricity minister is here. Several other ministers are accompanying Prime Minister Soudani, as is a KRI delegation. I think they will be well received. I think that they will be listened to, but the focus will be on the Prime Minister, what he is saying, and the agenda that he's bringing. I think the United States will be very reluctant to make that a condition, to make any demands of either side. I think the United States is always happy to help set the table for negotiations. Should Baghdad and Erbil ask either the U.S. ambassador or some other U.S. official to host discussions between Baghdad and Erbil, I'm sure the United States would be happy to do that. But I think the United States is very much trying to move past the days where the United States imposed solutions on Iraqis. These are Iraqi problems, and they need to be solved by Iraqis, and they need to be solved in an Iraqi manner. And having the United States impose a Western solution on Iraq's problems hasn't worked very well for the past 20 years. And I think the United States is realizing that it needs to take a step back when it comes to Iraq's internal issues, whether those are, with the recently deposed Sunni speaker of the Taqadum party, or whether those are relationships between Baghdad and Erbil. These are Iraqi issues that need to be solved inside the country's borders.